Well, good morning. It's good to be with you. My name is Mark, if we haven't met yet. And as Janet said, we are in week 2 of Advent and week 2 of our series called Let There Be Light. And so excited to be kicking off part 2. And before I do, I want to take a moment just to first of all, celebrate last week. Who was here last week? Did you have fun? Yeah, that was awesome. In fact, I was really proud of you guys because I prepped you a lot. And I remember that whole really? I think it's a great idea. Remember that? You missed out if you missed that. You can catch up online. Anyways, you guys over-delivered. You were awesome. In fact, when we did the call and response with kids and adults, you showed the kids up. How awesome was that? I was it's never happened in my life where the adults beat the kids. So give yourselves a round of applause. And I was just so excited to have all generations in the room. I know some of you were still I know they said it's okay to be messy, it's okay for kids to make noise, but you're holding on to your kids. It's I got Paw Patrol loaded on the phone. If they start making any noise, I got passies in my pocket. I know they're 7, but I'll still give them a passy. I'll shove anything in their mouth to make them quiet, right? You had that little panic. Hey, we're good with it. I didn't even plan on bringing my son on stage. He's like, I am going up with you. I'm like, okay, son, it's good. We just roll with it. That's our new motto. It's one of our values now. No, it's not. But anyways, we just like to roll. It's on our website. We roll with it. Before we get going, one of the things I love to do in the beginning of the message is sometimes just give you an update or cast vision on something that's going on in our gathering. And so I want to invite Jeff Grunewald, our senior leader, up. And him and I are going to share a little bit about some news that's happening at our church downtown. Some of you are you have a church downtown? Yeah, in fact, we're one church, 2 locations. We have this one, which is called Lakeside Central. It's in the middle of nowhere. That makes no sense. And then we have Lakeside Downtown, which is, ready for it? Downtown. You can tell who's got everything going on, right? They got it straight. So anyways, Jeff, you want to give us a little bit of an update, and we'll just kind of share a little bit what's going on down there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and good morning, everybody. So I want to let you know officially, as some of you may have heard this and been wondering about it, and wanted to let you know that officially we now recognize that Pastor Justin Sitzma, the Lakeside Downtown pastor, has resigned his role as pastor of Lakeside Downtown. And for those of you that have known Justin, Justin's been a part of the church Lakeside for over 30 years, since he said he was 3 years old. So his family's been a big part of this church, and he's made such an incredible contribution here. But a stirring has been developing in he and Lindsay for a while, and they have concluded that God is leading them to some new places. And so Justin has resigned. And so his resignation from the role of downtown pastor is effective March 31st. It's possible that it could be sooner than that. But we're going to walk with Justin and Lindsay and the downtown congregation through this time of transition. And we are going to have a party and celebrate and bless Justin and Lindsay as they move on to the next stage in how God's calling them. So that is going to thrust our downtown church into a bit of a transition. That's an understatement. And seeing as he is pretty much the only staff member down there. And so do we have a plan? We're working on a plan. And yes. Mark, don't we have a plan?
We do. Now,
so why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So one of the big questions that people ask, okay, so in this transition time, as you're figuring out what's the future of Lakeside Downtown, who's going to preach? How's that going to happen? So we've
Let me guess.
Yeah, ready for it? So anyway, so we, working with the MAT, the ministry advisory team down there, they're totally in agreement that we just thought it'd be really cool if the person who does the teaching here would also do it down there in the time of transition. So I'm going to be gone for 3 months. No, I'm kidding. But I noticed nobody who said boo.
Why do you do that?
I was like, at least they didn't applaud, right? No. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a little creative. It's gonna be a little crazy, but we just believe the church rallies together and we're stronger together for it, even when we face tough times. And so what we're gonna do is downtown usually meets at 10:30. They're gonna start meeting at 11. We're gonna keep the same time here. And so usually I'm the majority of the time the one preaching here, or whoever is the one who's teaching here. The moment the benediction's over, instead of going out to the hallway, gonna go out to a car and then race following all speed limits, I promise. Downtown, pull in, and then join their gathering and preach there so that they continue to be able to worship as they seek God in this time of transition.
Yeah, and that's what we're asking the downtown congregation to do, is just each family, each individual person, just pray, seek the Lord, and say, what are we supposed to do about our participation in Lakeside Downtown? And we'll just leave a little bit of a space over the next couple of months for that to occur. And Mark, that's a huge offer that you've made, and thank you for offering up the other preachers too. That was really kind of you. I hope I'm not on the schedule. But anyway, really big of you to do that. And we're excited about our one church, 2 locations, and that there is a future, and we're seeking the Lord for what that is. So just wanted to let all of you know that this morning. So thank you very much for that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. I saw Jeff this morning, and you can tell his voice is a little different. I was like, Jeff, are you going through puberty, bro? He's like, no, I have a cold, jerk. No, he didn't say that. This is all my own. Okay, stick to the notes, Mark. Anyways, part 2 of a series called Let There Be Light. Last week, we talked about this idea of hope. And what we're talking about this series is, I don't know about you, but I talked to a lot of people, and they reached a dark season in life. And the dark season in life was the reason they stopped believing in God or continued to not believe in God. Because they're like, if there's a good God, if there's a loving God, how can he not shine a little bit of light in the midst of my dark circumstance? And you add salt to the wound when we read scriptures like we did last week, which is like, those who follow me will never walk in darkness. And you're like, I've been a Jesus follower my whole life, and I walked in a lot of darkness, so I'm out. And what we realize is there's actually some really powerful imagery in that wording, and we often get it wrong. What Jesus was saying was that he wasn't turning like off the darkness. In fact, you can't turn off darkness. That's why the imagery is so powerful. If the lights are out, you never say, somebody turn off the darkness, I can't see anything. It's like, no, someone turn on the light. That you need light to be added in. You don't need to be taking out the darkness. And so Jesus wasn't saying, if you follow me, you'll never have hard times. If you follow me, you'll never have sickness. You'll never experience death. You'll never have any of these challenges. He's saying, I will always be with you in the midst of the darkness. And so wherever you are in your spiritual journey, whatever you believe, we're kind of on this quest as Jesus followers, and many of you who are kind of like, I'm not sure I can believe, but I'm really wrestling, or I'm trying to understand, is there's gotta be something else out there. There's gotta be something I can hope in, whatever it is. We're just asking, how do you let the light of God into the midst of your circumstance? And today we're gonna talk specifically about that with the idea of love. And last week I had this really cool encounter because we talked about hope. And hope is this thing that we all crave, from whether we're shopping and just wanting to make sure there's a warranty to the end of our life and wanting to make sure that, you know, we drink things that taste bad and smoothies and all that stuff because we're just trying to like make life last a little longer. That's our hope, so to speak. And we kind of realized like really nothing's guaranteed. And so there's two kind of reactions to a hopeless life, and it's either reckless living or anxious living. And I had this really neat conversation with someone after the gathering, and they're like, that's my story. I had this horrible encounter when I was young, and I was just so devastated by it, you know, lost someone passed away in their life, and they're like, so I lived a reckless life in response, like that whole eat, drink for tomorrow we die, remember that whole conversation? He's like, I lived reckless. He's like, and then it dawned on me, and I went to the other extreme, and I lived totally anxious. He's like, and then I met Jesus. I was just like, what a cool story. And so today we continue on that series. And if you missed last week, you can catch up online. But today we're talking about love. And I don't know about you, but like I've experienced some dark times in the love department. Anyone else with me? You're laughing, but are you not with me? Okay, apparently I'm the only one with relational problems. I don't know why I'm the one talking about it. But anyways, so I've experienced it. Let's be honest, you've experienced it. You've experienced dark times. You've experienced the weight of a broken relationship. You've experienced the tension of something going wrong. You've experienced having an amazing job, but resigning because a relationship went bad. That the job wasn't as important to you as the relationship, but you just couldn't stand to share a cubicle with them. You couldn't stand to report to them. You couldn't stand to have them reporting to you. That you've experienced taking a different route home because you're avoiding a relationship. That it's not because it's the fastest way home, it's just the most comfortable. That maybe even in church world, you've experienced this where you sit on one side of the room or the other side of the room because you're like, you kind of leave before the last song so you don't have to run into them. Or you keep asking me, when are we gonna have a second gathering? And it's not because there's not enough seats, it's because you don't wanna have to go to the same gathering as that other person that you had an argument with, right? It's like we all know the pain. We all know the darkness of what happens when relationships and when love goes bad. We've all experienced that totally. You look at macro level, all around the world, we see wars. You look on the micro level, you see family feuds. That you just see all the different issues. And the interesting thing is, and I say this all the time, is that no matter how many bad experiences you have, you never stop seeking for love. I have one bad experience with food, I never touch it again. If I get food poisoning, I'm not eating that for at least 7 years. Somehow we continue to get hurt in relationships, and we don't just evolve out of being people who need relationship. It's at the core of our being, and we Christians believe it's because we're made in the image of a relational God. It's in our DNA. We are made for relationship. And so no matter what you believe, the one thing that we have in common is this, that we're all on this quest for love. That nobody ever says, they're just too loving, I had to break up with them. They're just too caring. They're too sacrificial. They woke up every morning before me and made me coffee. And they stayed up late and rubbed my feet, and sometimes I was half asleep and I'd wake up and they were still rubbing my feet. That's why I had to get rid of them. They were just too loving. Nobody says that. Because whatever you believe, the thing at the core of every human being is that we all want more love, not less. More love, not less. The interesting thing is you bring religion into it, you bring church world into it, and we use all these relational words, right? We say community, welcome to the family, and we have those pictures of those clip art of the stick figures holding hands, which is really eerie. We should stop doing that, right? But come join community, right? It's just this is so weird. And then I said this before, right? You come to the gathering, and you sit shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of other people, and you stare at the front, and then you leave, and you've had no relational encounter, and you feel worse than before because you were surrounded by people. In fact, as one sociologist said, we've never been closer in history and more connected, and yet we're still struggling to find love and to find relationship. That it's this thing that we all so badly want. And we, as Christians, often talk like bumper stickers. You ever experience Christian bumper sticker talk? It's like, Jesus loves you. God really loves you. And you're just like, I don't know God. Never seen God. That sounds weird. Right? Can we just stop doing that? What does that mean exactly? And how do you experience the love of a God that you've never seen and maybe never heard from? How does that work? And so today, here's what I want to do. As we are slowing down to really just pause and encounter God, I want you to actually encounter his presence today. In fact, I want to challenge you, don't leave this room until you've encountered the presence of God. Not just learned about him, not just heard some things that happened thousands of years ago. I want you today to encounter the living God, and that's what we're going after today. So if you would you turn in your Bible to John chapter 13, verse 1. You have a device, feel free to pull it out. You have a real Bible, feel free to pull it out. If you don't have one, don't feel bad. It's gonna be on the screen in a moment. I love having my own Bible because then I can highlight and put question marks and I didn't think that was actually in the Bible. When the preacher said it, I checked it, fact checked it, it was true. So you go ahead, pull out your Bible. If you didn't bring it next week. But we're just gonna jump into this story. And this is written by a man named John. John lived with Jesus, he encountered Jesus, experienced Jesus, and when he reaches the end of his life, he just kind of realizes, I should probably write some of my experiences and encounters down. And he kind of says, you know what, all the things that happened, you can't even fit that in a book. It was incredible having Jesus in the world. But here's my story of everything that went on. And so John writes a story, and we're near the end of the book here, John chapter 13, verse 1, and I want to read it for you today. 13:1. It was just before the Passover festival, okay? This is party time. This is celebration time. This is a great season. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Remember, this is John writing in the future. He's saying, Jesus is at this big party, but he's aware of the fact that this is his last week on the earth. And John just kind of summarized last week. He's like, and it's amazing because he never lost the plot. He never stopped fighting for love. In fact, he loved everybody around him right till he took his dying last breath. This is someone who encountered and experienced Jesus just writing his story. It continues. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. That was already in the work, okay? Interesting fun fact, Simon Iscariot, the father of Judas, is only mentioned one time in the Bible. The time when it's saying, and by the way, the guy who betrayed Jesus, who betrayed God in a bod, God in the flesh, God incarnate, God in the world, this is who his dad was. That's his only shout out. Let's just, as parents, can we just pause for a second and be like, let that not be our legacy, right? If we're gonna be known for anything in our kids' lives, this is what my wife and I ask God for every day. We wanna be people who help our kids encounter God. Make that your mantra too. We wanna be people who help our children encounter God, not the Judas thing, okay? Good, all right, glad we all agree on that. Verse 3 continues. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that he had come from God and was returning to God. Here's the thing that Christians believe. We believe that Jesus Christ was 100% God, 100% man. That's a mystery. How do you explain that? I don't know, okay? Jesus, he was literally born out of a mother. He came out. He was 100% human, 100% God. I don't think he knew it right away. I don't think it was God in this little body peeking out the eye holes, this is a bad strategy. I'm gonna be sitting in dirty poop for the next 2 years, right? I don't get it. If you get it, come and talk to me. It's kind of one of the mysteries. Even the Bible writers, they call it the mystery of God. Let's just stand in awe of how cool it is that the God of heaven was willing to step into the world. Not as a king, we've been singing about king all day, and not as a king who wanted to be carried around everywhere, but came in the form of a helpless baby to a single mother. That's the way he decided to step into the world. It causes you to pause. And you just kind of imagine in this moment, if you could just imagine being Jesus, because at some point in your life, you became aware of the fact that you weren't just a normal boy, but you were God in the flesh, God incarnate. That you knew that you had come from heaven and you were returning into heaven and you were there to give your life and also to show people how to live life. And just imagine sitting at a dinner, being in your early 30s and knowing that this is your last week of life. And the reason that you're gonna die is not because you're unhealthy. In fact, you're perfectly healthy, but because one of your best friends who's been with you for years is gonna betray you, and you know it, and you're aware of it. So it says, so he got up from the meal, and he took off his outer clothing. You just picture him taking off his jacket, taking off his watch. I don't know, ladies, maybe you can refer to that. Just set things down. Just like, Judas, can I see you outside for a minute? I don't know about you, but that's what I'd be doing if I knew he was about to betray me. But that's not what Jesus does. Look what he says. It says, so he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. And you just kind of have to understand culture back then, okay? They greeted people differently than we greet people, okay? I show up at your house, you offer to, what do? You offer to take my jacket if it's winter, and you ask me, can I get you something to drink, okay? And if that's not what you do, you should do it, because I just loaded my toddlers into a car, drove with them, and unloaded them. You should, in fact, don't even ask me, just have a coffee ready, okay? And not decaf, that's the work of the devil, okay? Give me the real stuff, the Holy Spirit inspired stuff. Okay, some of you are like, I've said amen for the first time in my life. Okay, there, it'll just come out of you. There you go. So anyways, so in this culture, you show up at someone's door, and the first thing they do is they kiss you. I'm all for bringing that back. It says greet each other with a holy kiss in the Bible, but somehow people look at me funny when I do that, so I just go for the hug, you know. Anyways, so they kiss you, and then they actually offer to wash your feet. Because you've been walking on Roman roads with sandals, your feet are covered in crap. That's not a way of saying they're dirty. They're literally covered in crap, because all the animals are doing their business on the road. You're walking on those roads. And so the first thing the host does is he offers to have your feet washed. He doesn't offer to wash them because that's a disgusting job. The lowest ranking slave has to do it. So the lowest ranking servant or slave would then get a basin and start washing all the crap. You should count how many times I say crap in this message. All the crap off your feet until they're clean, and then you get to have the meal. And so Jesus is actually starting to do this, okay? And he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you gonna wash my feet? And Jesus replied, you don't realize what I am doing, but later you're gonna understand. And then Peter, who always gets it right the second time. Some of you are like, I'm married to someone like that. He's like, no, said Peter, you'll never wash my feet. To which I kind of understand what's going on in Peter's mind. Because here's what we know about Peter from other stories. There's this time where Jesus is talking with his disciples, and he's like, hey, who does everybody say that I am? And they're like, some people say you're this guy, some people say you're this guy, some people think you're like a reincarnated dude. Like, there's just like all these different things. He's like, who do you say I am? And then Simon Peter, he's like, you're the Messiah, which is the king of the universe, the King of kings and the Lord of lords. You're the Son of the living God, that you're God incarnate. You're in, like Peter has this realization. And then Jesus says, bless you, Peter. Because that wasn't revealed to you by human beings, but God revealed that to you. Because God does that. He supernaturally reveals himself all throughout Scripture, and I believe in our lives today. That there are times where he reveals himself. And so Peter has had this encounter. And so Peter knows this is God who sits on the throne in heaven. It says that he has angels who serve him day and night. They don't take a break. You think you're a big deal because you have an assistant? Does your assistant have wings? No, he's a big deal. And so Peter's like, no. You left your throne. You left your royal angels who serve you day and night, and you created the world. You created humans to be in relationship with you. They rejected you, and instead of striking them down with lightning, you decided to take on human flesh, be born into this world, and come and be disrespected in your own hometown, be made fun of, be accused, be beat up, and now you're hosting a dinner and you're the King of Kings, and we didn't even carry you to this meal. You walked, and we didn't even wash your feet when you came in, and now you're washing ours. And Peter's like, I'm not having any of that. I get it. I'd probably say the same thing. I remember one preacher, he's like, this is like walking around Buckingham Palace, just on a tour, and just being like, something smells. And just realizing like, it's you. You stepped in dog crap or something. It's like, is that number 4? It doesn't matter, right? Like, and you're just like, oh my gosh, right? And you're just like, is there a bathroom? You're just kind of checking doors. Like, where do I go to? And all of a sudden, and I know this is like there's security, I get it, okay? But just imagine, okay? It's like, oh, it's the queen. You just run into the queen, right? It's like, oh, and you're just trying to leave, and she's just like, what's that smell? Is that? There's something on your shoe. And she just kind of gets down and just starts cleaning your shoe. Like, could you imagine? You'd be like, no, I'm so sorry. Please, just ignore. You never stop. Please don't tell anyone about this. Let's not tweet this, right? Like this would be like a big deal. This is what's going on. Like, there's nothing to compare this to. This is a big deal. Jesus hasn't had his feet washed, but he's washing the feet. And Peter's like, I'm not having this. No. And then Jesus continues. He says, Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part with me. Jesus is blowing apart the foundations of religion and how you approach God. That all relational foundations and religion in general is about how human beings can approach God in their own work. You look at all the world religions, all the different ways that we need to do things to approach God. You need to get rid of your karmic debt. You need to balance out the Islamic scales to please Allah. That you need to do a bunch of Hail Marys and pay for your sins. That you need to, even in the Christian world, we make it sound like rules. You need to just follow all the rules. And if you follow all the rules, it's almost like we bring it back from other cultures, but it's not true. It's like, then you can approach the throne of God when you've got all your stuff cleaned up. Jesus is like, that's not my way. My way is that you have to do nothing and I do it all. And you will receive it. And if you won't, if you think that somehow you're gonna do it on your own, you'll never be with me because you can't. Only me lavishing my love on you and serving you. That's the way this goes forward. Religion is done. It's all about relationship. The God of the universe stepping off his throne, stepping into creation and loving so much that he sacrifices himself for us. First in this imagery of feet washing, pouring out water over feet. And then on the cross with blood pouring out over our sins. That Jesus was blowing up the religious system. And that's a good thing. Because people responding to religious systems and doing good because it's the rules of the religion are not pleasant to be around. We talk about this all the time. You can do good things and follow all the rules and not be loving. And most religious people that we encounter, that's the reality. There's no joy. There's no life. They're doing it because they're trying to get the scales to weigh out. They're trying not to get paid back with bad. They're trying to earn the love and deserve the love of God. But it never actually works out. It's never pleasant to be around. And that's why we reject religion. That's why our world is running away from faith. But Jesus is like, I'm blowing up the whole religious system and I'm bringing it back to relationship. The God of the universe steps off his throne, steps into humanity, and he comes into your mess. You do nothing. He cleans it all up with his sacrifice, with his life, and ultimately his death. And then Peter gets it right the second time. He's like, okay, got it. And then he swings to the other extreme. He's like, okay. Then Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well. I'll take it all, Jesus, right? This is Peter. I love Peter. He's all in. He's like, I get it now. I get it. I want all of me. Then Jesus is like, just chill out, dude. Like, we're not giving you a sponge bath. That's just weird, right? Then Jesus answered, those who've had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you. Because he knew. He knew that Judas was in the room. And guess what? It doesn't say that he washed 11 set of feet. He washed 12. He washed 12. Scripture says, while we were still sinning, Christ died for us. Then even if you never accept his invitation to relationship and his sacrifice on the cross so that we can be back in relationship with him, he still died for you. For he knew who was going to betray him. And that was why he said, not everyone was clean. And then he continues on, and he says this, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them, just kind of pausing. This is Jesus and this is God all throughout the scriptures asking questions. You ever wonder, why does God ask questions? Is it because he's confused? No. He's giving you an opportunity to pause and reflect because you wouldn't give it to yourself, okay? This is why God asks questions. So he asked them that. You can call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Back then, you didn't pick a school to study at. You picked a teacher to learn under, and you were their servant for the whole time that you were serving under them. He's like, so am I your teacher? Absolutely. And now that I'm your teacher and Lord and have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. If anyone should have been washing Jesus' feet, it was the ones who were underneath him, learning from him. Jesus is like, I just flipped the script. I just changed how everything works. He changes it completely. And he's foreshadowing what he's gonna do with his life. And he's like, and then you're gonna live out of this. That you're not gonna seek the best position, because there's other stories in the Gospels of the disciples having fights and arguing about who's better. Are you better? No, I'm better. No, I'm better. And Jesus is like, it doesn't matter who's better. The best among you is the one who serves the best. I'm flipping the script on what it means to be great in this world. The greatest among you are the greatest servants. That's what Jesus is doing. And so let me just summarize what we kind of learn in this text. There's more to the text. Let me just summarize it here. Simply this. It's a long summary, so then I have a shorter summary for the Coles Notes of the Coles Notes. You good with that? Okay. The Christian life is living in undeserved grace. God stepping off his throne, coming to us. We don't deserve it, but it's the reality. Accept it. A creator God who steps into the world, lavishes us in love through his life and through his death. And we can only share this love if we first accept it and experience it. Ready for the summary of the summary? It's so good. The Christian life is to walk in the love of God and to give it away. That Jesus is teaching them. He's like, guys, you all want love. You all want peace in the world. You want no more war, but you cannot give what you do not have. It's very simple. Someone asks you for $20, you can't give them $20 unless you've gotten $20 from somewhere. We want to be loving. We want the world to be this self-sacrificing place. We are drawn to stories of a life given for another. Anywhere you go in the world, a life thrown in front of a bus for another, or to save babies, or for war, a life given on behalf of another draws people's attention and draws them in. It goes across all cultures. The God of the universe gives his life. Immediately, people pay attention. The first thing he asks is not to be served, but he comes into the world and serves. The Christian life is to walk in the love of God. Do you first, like Peter, say, okay, I don't deserve it. This is really hard. This is really uncomfortable. Have you seen my feet? I have like 8 feet. Like, this is gross. I cannot believe it. I am just going to receive this. And every other lie that comes up, I'm just going to reject it. I'm going to receive the love of God. And once I've experienced and encountered that, Jesus is like, and now you go and do that for others. And you give it away. The world gets changed not when a bunch of people rally around and say, love, love, it's all about love. We should just be more loving. You cannot give what you have not received. The only place you will find this kind of love, stepping off the throne in heaven and sacrificing his life, is in the Christian faith. There was this world conference years ago, I was reading about it, of all different religions, and they were kind of arguing. It's like, what is the thing about Christianity that stands apart from every other faith? And then one famous theologian just walked in, he's like, oh, that's an easy one. Grace. Grace, undeserved grace. You don't find it in any other faith, but you find it in the person of Jesus. Jesus came to show us what the Father is like. If that's not your understanding of the God of creation, you don't know Jesus. And you just start all over again. So here's what I want to do. First of all, if you're here today, you're not a Jesus person, you're not a Christian, you're skeptical, you had a bad church experience. In fact, you had a terrible church experience. I hear them all the time. I'm a pastor. People come and tell me their bad church experiences, right? Can I just say this? That Judas was in the presence of Jesus for years. He saw the guy walk on water. He saw him feed thousands of people with a little boy's lunch. He saw him turn water into wine. He had his questions not answered by a smart pastor, by God himself. He sat under the teachings of God in the flesh. And at the end of it all, he chose money over God. That he missed out on it. Would you have said he was one of Jesus' closest and one of the followers, and he was at all the prayer meetings, and he knew all the messages, and he knew all the teachings? Yes, but he had a hard heart, and he had missed it all. And in fact, history was changed forever for the negative because of Judas. That so many times I meet people who had a bad church experience, and their bad church experience wasn't with Jesus. It was someone, as they explained it, I'm like, oh, you met a Judas. You met someone who's been in church their whole life, knew all the verses, knew all the phrases every week, never misses it. They're serving, they're giving, they're members, they're pictures on the wall, but they have a hard heart because there's something they love more than God, and it got in the way. And it was a Judas that you encountered. And so today I just want to say, but have you met Jesus? Have you met Jesus? The God who sits on the throne and yet comes into creation and says, let me wash your feet. Let me deal with your mess. Let me flip the script on religion and say, you don't have to work to get close to me. I want to get close to you and serve and sacrifice for you. That's the narrative of Scripture from front to back. It's the story of Jesus. And I'm not saying you need to believe in him today, but if that's the truth, if that's what we believe, there's something about a life given on behalf of another that at least draws people in to ask more questions. And so would you at least just stay on the journey and just wrestle? And we always say here, bring your questions to God. Bring your anger to God. I like to say, his chest is big enough for you to pound on and ask him the tough questions that you've been holding back because you rejected he even existed because of your bad church experience. Can you just come and continue to journey and continue to wrestle? And for those of you who are Jesus followers, can I just give a few things that I take from this story that I think are really significant? Number one, the story of Judas is terrifying because he knew everything about Jesus. He saw all the miracles. He literally was in relationship with him, and yet he never experienced and encountered the love of God. That it is possible to sit in these seats every week, to read your Bible every morning, to say your prayers every night, to be a member of this church, to give regularly, to do all those things, and to have never experienced and encountered the radical and reckless love of Jesus. Just think about this for a second, okay? If you stepped in crap and the Queen of England cleaned it off your shoe, can you imagine the story you would tell? You'd be talking about, you'd be like, and I just watched it. I was so grossed out. And I mean, like everything that everyone's ever said about that queen, I just know she's an amazing woman. Wow, that was an experience. You would never be like, and then we got some street meat outside Buckingham Palace, went inside, I stepped in crap, the queen wiped it off, and then I walked out. You would never say it like that because that's an experience, an encounter of something so deep and so intrinsic to your life. If God of the universe came into your world and then you invited him in and you received his gift of salvation, you received the gift of his death for your life, of cleansing everything you've ever done, every nook and cranny of your life, and you just talk about it. And then when I was 7, I wrote it in the front of my Bible. I said this prayer, and then I was a Jesus follower, and I've been coming to, I was like, how is that not an emotional thing? Because it's up here like Judas, but it's not in the core of your being like Peter. You haven't realized that the God of the universe left his throne, came down to earth, and gave his life for you so that you could know him and be in relationship with him. Have you experienced that? Have you experienced that? Some of you are like, what? Back then, I understand Judas could experience it. He was literally like Jesus was there in the flesh and blood so he can experience it. But now it's just a factual thing because Jesus went back to heaven. And no, it's not. No, it's not. It's still an experience thing. The Holy Spirit is still real, and you can still encounter and experiencing him today. And so if you haven't, the thing that's true about this story is still true in our lives, which is there are things that could be going on in your life as they were with Judas that could be stopping you from encountering God. So I want to give you those 3 things. Number 1, what are you holding back? There were things that Judas was holding back from God and that hardened his heart and he wasn't allowed in. The second thing is, what is the greater love in your life? That Judas loved money more than Jesus, and it hardened his heart, and he couldn't encounter and he couldn't experience God. And number three, what lie have you believed? And so I'm gonna walk you through those in a moment. So I wanna invite the band to come up. And as they're coming up and they start to play, I just wanna pray with you. And I wanna walk you through these three questions. And we're gonna go after something. Because I hear this all the time. It's like, well, I know God, I follow the commands. I've never experienced his love. It's not really emotional. It's not this big encounter. And I'm not about emotionalism and like, oh, you should be weeping and crying. But like, this should be a significant moment in your life of encounter with the living God. And if it's not, if you don't have this moment, you don't have this encounter regularly, you don't have a relationship with him, you're not hearing him speak to you, like God doesn't speak to me, we're gonna go after that. Because Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. And if you don't, that means that one of these three things has gotten in the way. So would you just close your eyes with me for a moment? There's nothing spiritual about closing your eyes, by the way. It's just to cut out distractions. I get distracted by everything, so this is really helpful for me. Jesus, we wanna hear from you right now. Jesus, the first question I want to ask on behalf of everybody in this room, including me, is what is the thing that we are holding back? What is the thing, like Judas, that is getting in the way of us experiencing you? Is it pride? Is it disgust at the metaphorical feet in our life and the things we don't want you touching? We don't want you seeing. We've told nobody. We've never even vocalized what we experienced. What are the things that we are holding back from you that as a result are stopping you from getting in the midst of that, cleaning it up and restoring it? Would you bring those things to mind right now? What are the things that we're holding back? Whatever thing has come to mind, God, we give you that. It's something that happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, last week, last night. It is the thing that keeps us away from your presence because we're scared of it. We just give that to you now. And we just sit in the fact that you're not disgusted, your face is not angry, that you are just so glad that we've invited you in. Second question we want to ask you, Jesus. What is the greater love that is in the way? Jesus, is it a job? Is it a promotion? Is it a family? Is it about being single? Is it about getting out of this marriage? Jesus, what is the thing that we're more focused on than you? Is it an app on our phone? Is it a program that we just can't stop binge watching? None of those things are bad. But if there's anything that has taken the place of you in our life, Holy Spirit, bring it to mind right now. Give us an image. If you don't believe that God speaks through his Spirit, just watch. Spirit, come. Reveal the greater love in our life that is getting in the way. It got in the way of Judas with money, and it's getting in the way of us and other things. Would you bring it to mind right now? Jesus has this wild saying. He says, if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off, throw it away. It's better to not be in hell with two hands. And what he was saying was not chop off your hand, but if anything is stopping you from being in relationship with God, hell is the absence of the presence of God for eternity. If anything is in the way of that, get rid of it. It's not worth it. Being in the presence of Jesus forever is. So whatever that thing is, would you just wipe it off? You can throw your hands out if you want, but God, I'm done with that. I'm done with that relationship. I'm done with that dream. Whatever it is, we just get rid of it right now in Jesus' name. And lastly, Jesus, through your Holy Spirit, would you just tell us if there's any lie that we've believed? Anything that we've held on to that has stopped us from encountering your presence. And the one that comes to mind for me is you don't deserve this love. And I get the sense that there's a lot of Peters in this room. That if God was to wash our feet, we'd pull back and say, never, Lord. And if he wanted to try and clean up the stuff in our life, we'd say, never, Lord. That we feel the need, and I struggle with this too, to try and clean up the mess before we come into his presence. The reason you haven't encountered him is because you've been holding back, waiting to be good enough. He says, no, 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 come, bring it all. I want it all. I'm just so glad that you came. Now let's stand together and let's sing about his amazing grace that transforms us. As you head out today, I just want to remind you, our prayer teams are up here at the front. They want to pray this with you. It's so cool the way God tied all these themes together with King of God, presence, Janet leading us into that, and us inviting his presence. If you want more of that, you want to invite him into other areas, you want someone to pray that over you, our prayer teams are totally ready. And here's my blessing for you, or benediction for you as you go. May you walk in the love of God and give it away. No other religion, no other, I need to earn it, I deserve. Just people who walk in the love of God and give it away.